What's up, family? Welcome back to the Gandee Show. Today, I want to talk about something that almost cost me my life, and that is comparing myself to others in recovery. First time I went to rehab, um, I did not have an open mind. I was broken, but I wasn't open minded yet, right? So apparently, I wasn't broken enough. But I walked in and I was watching everybody else because it's easier to look outward than it is to look inward. I was comparing my story to their story. I would listen to people in group and I would be weighing stuff in my head like, oh, well, I never did that or it didn't get that bad for me. And, just being the judge, right? Because I got every right to do that, like just being a judge and I'm the last person that should be judging anybody. I would compare my story to theirs or my pain to their pain, my addiction to their addiction. And instead of focusing on what I needed to do to heal, I was too busy sizing myself up against everybody else. What that comparison did was just plant seeds for my relapse. One of the things that really got to me was, I would hear people talk negatively about people in the MAT program, the MAT, the medically assisted treatment, and specifically about people who were using Suboxone to try to stay sober. I would hear people say stuff like, "Oh, they're not really sober," and um, just be nasty about it. And instead of asking myself, what do I need to survive? I thought I was more worried about what other people would think about me. And, that's really, I want to park right here for a minute because one of the things, one of the most beautiful things about recovery is no matter what your background is, no matter um, what kind of socioeconomic uh, uh, situation you come from, no matter what your political ideologies are, what your religion is, none of that separates us because we are all connected by that one thing, the one thing that overlooks all of that stuff that I just mentioned, and that is we're addicts. We are an addict or an alcoholic. And that, man, dude, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal because honestly, you know, I'm so grateful that I went through what I went through. I'm so grateful that I am a recovered drug addict because I've never really experienced anything anywhere that you can say the same thing about. That no matter what, no matter who you are or who you were, we all have one thing in common. And what should matter is surviving that thing. Not what Johnny thinks of freaking Jack, who may or may not be on in the MAT, in medically assisted treatment. And that's something that I almost let that really turn me away from any kind of recovery community because and let me tell you what I know now. This is what I know now. What I know now is that was my ego manifesting itself as my addiction trying to kill me, trying to distract me away from what I'm really supposed to be doing in these situations, which is looking inward and figuring out what it is that I need to survive. Who cares what somebody else thinks about you? It's none of my business what anybody says or thinks about me. And that's something I've really struggled with early in recovery, my first go around. Whenever I was first introduced to a 12-step program or any kind of recovery, this is what I was focused on. And that should tell you where my head and my heart was at the time, and it wasn't where it needed to be to survive. I let other people's opinion decide what was best for my recovery, and that was a big mistake. And I'm lucky to be sitting here in front of this camera talking to you guys about it because it could have killed me. Recovery is not one size fits all. Recovery is not linear. There are many different ways to recover from alcoholism or drug addiction or any kind of addiction. And I would never turn anybody away from a 12-step program because I believe you don't even got to be an alcoholic or an addict to benefit from a 12-step program. But there are many different ways to recover. And me personally, I lean on my faith. I go to church. I I've come into a relationship with Jesus and my life has never been better. I have been made a new creation, and I believe everybody can feel that way. I refuse to believe what society tells us about ourselves, and I started to believe what God tells me about how He thinks of us. And my life has never been better. What keeps one person sober might not keep another person alive. Gossip and the silly stuff. People's lives are at stake. You know that? And I don't want to discourage anybody because another thing, I was getting hung up on was certain meetings I would go to. I would always find something that I didn't like about it. And again, that was my ego and my addiction manifesting itself and trying to distract me away from what it was I was really supposed to be doing there. There's a million meetings. If you don't like something at a meeting, find another one. If you don't like something at a church, find another one. If you really get honest with yourself, you're going to find what you're looking for. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter what you're looking for. You're going to find what you're looking for no matter what. Think about that. That sounds really simple, but it's really not. I heard something else that makes me think of that too. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. You're gonna find what you're looking for. If I'm in East Cleveland looking for dope, I'll find it. If I'm at Lake Jogga Recovery Centers looking for sobriety, I will find it. I found it there. And I know that I'm not smarter or more special or different than any of you watching the show. So I know that if I could find it, I know you can find it. That is why I speak with the conviction that I speak with because I know that what I'm telling you is true. I believe it and I lived it. Again, what keeps one person sober might not keep another person alive. So the moment we start comparing ourselves to other people's program and recovery, that is the moment we stop listening to ourselves. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then. Comparison is a waste of energy, and it's a lie. It's a lie. It doesn't it's a waste of energy, and even worse, like I said earlier, it is your addiction manifesting itself and literally trying to kill you. I'm not even like that's not a metaphor. I'm being literal. And addiction is sneaky, man. And it plays on the one thing that we are all susceptible to, and that is our ego. Relinquishing your ego and humbling yourself is going to be a lifelong process. But there there are nothing but benefits that come with that. There's nothing bad about doing that. I can't think of one thing that's negative about relinquishing your ego and humbling yourself. You're only going to become a better person to be around. Addiction is sneaky. It does not always show up as cravings. Sometimes it shows up as judgment. That ego is slick. That ego is dangerous. And all it is a distraction. It's all it is. It's literally just trying to distract you away from healing. Also, when you're comparing yourself to others, you're not even present. You're somewhere else. And you're definitely not healing. And you're not focused on progress. You're focused on noise. And addiction loves noise and chaos. It thrives. It wants you, addiction wants you looking left and right instead of inward. It wants you, addiction wants you questioning your path instead of walking it. Addiction wants you believing that you're doing recovery wrong, so eventually you'll just give up altogether. Because it's easier, although at least I know for me, my addiction was chaos and it was terrible, but at least I knew what to expect, right? I had no idea what sustaining a sober lifestyle looked like. Let me say this very clearly. Medically assisted treatment keeps you alive. It's valid. If meetings help you, they're valid. If going to church helps you, check mark. It takes a lot. A lot goes into this. It's not just you're going to fix one thing about yourself and then, oh, well, that was it. That was the magic thing that needed to happen and now I'm okay. For me, it took therapy, it took faith, it took setting boundaries, it took honesty with myself first and foremost, and then others. It took medication. I used, so like I said earlier in the episode, my first try, my ego prevented me from truly getting the help that I needed. So I denied medically assisted treatment and I relapsed. The next time around, the last time I went to rehab and the last time I'll ever have to go to rehab, I chose to try medically assisted treatment. And it really helped me. It really helped manage the cravings. I could say the whole time I was in the MAT program, I didn't have a craving. I really didn't. Now, do I think it's supposed to be a forever thing? No. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. So please do not mistake it for medical advice. I'm only telling you what it was like for me. The MAT program really helped me, but it was not ever meant to be a forever thing in my recovery plan. It ran its course for me, and eventually I got on the Brixadi shot, and the goal is to not have to go back for that. And that's where I'm at right now. This is me being transparent with you. The only recovery that matters is the one that keeps you sober. It doesn't, the loudest person in the room, the person with the most clean time, the person who thinks their way is the right way, none of that matters. None of that matters. You have to figure out what's going to keep you alive because this is literally a life or death situation. And if it's not a life or death situation for you, then maybe you're not ready yet. I don't know. But for me, it was a life or death situation. It was figure this out or die. That's where I was at. Your recovery is personal and it should be sacred. It should be the most important thing in your life because without it, you have nothing else. If you do not maintain a sober lifestyle, nothing else, everything, you will lose everything. If your addiction was anything near what mine was, if you do not put your sobriety first, you will have nothing. And the moment I stopped comparing myself to others and worrying about how my recovery looked to people on the outside and started focusing on how it felt in here, that's when things changed for me. Like I talked about in my last episode, I was desperate. I was willing to do anything to stay sober. In healing requires humility. And humility means admitting to yourself, I don't have this all figured out. Obviously, I didn't land myself in rehab because I had it all figured out. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So, if you're watching this and you're stuck in comparison, I hope anything that I just said gets through. And I'm sorry if I sound intense about this, but this is something that really is something I really struggle with. So please, you're not behind, you're not weak, you're not failing, but you are learning, and that's okay. Give yourself some grace and some room to learn, but stay in your own lane. Learn from my mistakes. Stay in your own lane because you got to protect your recovery because no one's coming to save you. Do not let addiction disguise itself as someone else's opinion. Comparison does not save lives, but commitment does. If this message helped you today, please share it with someone who needs it. It really helps the algorithm or what. I hate saying that. I hate it. I literally hate it. If this message helped you, share it with somebody that needs to hear it, please. Because it helps get the message to other people who need it, who you may never meet. And as always, keep going, man. I'm here with you. We're doing this together, one day at a time, and I always want you to remember that trying to become the best version of yourself is your responsibility. It's our responsibility. We owe that to the people who love us and the people who we took through the mud and the ringer with our selfishness and our addiction. You owe that to them people. Just try your best to become the best version of yourself. And remember this, you were fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm out.